Hello everyone and welcome to Bhanzu Classes. So I hope all of you are doing wonderful, right? So starting with a new topic today for the day, I hope all of you have recalled my previous session, right? You all have practiced the questions based on that, right? What did we talk about? We had talked about multiplication of integers in the previous session. So today we'll be talking about properties of multiplication of integers, right? So in that, before we move ahead, what all we are going to discuss in that, let's recall what all do we have in the previous session, what all did we do, right? We started with multiplication of integers in the previous session. We had talked about multiplication of integers with same signs, with different signs, and also what do we get if we multiply any integer with 0, right? And last but not the least, we had also talked about multiplicative identity. So now let's talk about our topics for the day. So we'll be covering the different properties under multiplication of integers. The first one being closure property, second commutative property, third is associative property, and fourth is distributive property. So we are going to discuss all these properties over here, starting with the first one, that is closure property. So we all know what does actually closure property stands for, right? Where you take up two integers and if we take them under a particular operation, if you get an integer only, that means it holds good, right? So over here we are talking about multiplication. So we are going to pick up two integers and multiply them. And when I say two integers, it can be positive integers, negative integers, or 0. So here we have taken different examples. The first one being with different signs, the second one being with same signs, what we had learnt in the previous session, right? Trying to recall everybody. So the product of these integers is an integer, as you can see. The product of the first one is -8. The product of the second one is +18. So it's an integer only. So the general rule for closure property under multiplication states that A into B will always be equal to C, where A, B, C are integers. So that means multiplication stands true for closure property under integers, right? This operation stands good for it. Now coming to the next property, where again we are going to pick up any two integers. But remember, in commutative property, we interchange the position of the integers, right? Let's see that. So 5 and -4, right? Even if I interchange their position, we are going to get the same answer. So that means two integers can be multiplied in any order. Order doesn't matter. The result will be the same. The product will be the same. Right? Let's take one more example. Suppose 2 into 3. I am taking both the positive integers. So you get 6, right? If I interchange now, I take up 3 first. So 3 into 2, yes ma'am, it's also 6. Same, right? So what is the general rule for commutative property of multiplication? It is A into B will always be equal to B into A, right? Now we have seen an example for different signs, same signs. Now let me tell you one example for 0 also. So 0 multiplied by suppose -7 will give me 0. Commutative property, interchange the position of the integers. So -7 into 0 is also giving you 0. So even if I interchange their position, the product remains the same, whether it's 0, negative integer, or positive integer. So do not forget to try them out with any of the integers you wish like. Getting it? So till now we had talked about two properties, closure property and commutative property, right? Now let's talk about associative property, right? The product of three integers does not depend on its grouping. Right? What do we do in associative property? We have three integers over here. We can group them anyhow, but your product would be same. Here you can see we are talking about the three integers, -3, 4 and -2. So first we are making a group of these two and multiplying them. Whatever product we get, we'll multiply by this. And second group is for these two integers, 4 and minus 2. And whatever product we got, we multiplied by the first integer. So the product is still 24 only, right? So do not forget the basics what we had recalled in the previous session, right? What we had learnt in the previous session. That if they are same sign integers, we get a positive product. Different signs integers, we get a negative product under multiplication, right? So what's the general rule for associative property of multiplication, my dears? It's A into B into C. Again, we are talking about three integers. Would be equal to A into B into C. What's the difference? The difference is the placement of the brackets. The difference is the grouping. Which two integers you are grouping. That's the only difference. Otherwise, your product would be same. Got it? So as we had discussed three properties now, let's do few practice questions, right? Find the products. First thing, let's see, are they having the same signs? Yes, ma'am. So over here in the first one, cancel out minus minus, what do we get? We get the answer as 630. You can copy the 0 and 21 multiplied by 3. I know everybody can do it on their tips only, right? So it's plus 630. Now in the second one, what do we have? We have three integers. So what to do? Over here we should cancel the first two sides, right? So what is 18 fours are? 32, right? So that would be 72 actually. 8 fours is 32, 18 fours is 72 into minus 5. So what do we do? Now different signs, we put the negative sign, because if two integers are multiplied and they have different signs, the product is a negative integer, right? Now 5 twos are 10, it would be minus 360. Got it everybody? Yeah? Yes? So this is how I asked you to practice in our previous session also. So do not forget to practice for this particular session also for properties of multiplication of integers. Now we move to the last topic, the distributive property, the most important. Many people get confused with it. So let's do it in a simpler way. And yeah, this property is going to be in two parts, that is under over addition and over subtraction, right? So over addition, what happens? You will see a plus sign over here, right? You will see a plus sign. Now what do we do? Basically, if you get this question, what will you do? You will solve the bracket first. So 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 into minus 6 is minus 48. But distributive property says, whatever is inside the bracket, multiply it with whatever is outside the bracket. So minus 6 is distributed to 3 also, minus 6 is distributed to 5 also. Okay? So minus 6 into 3 is minus 18. Minus 6 into 5 is minus 30. We have distributed. So we got two different brackets over here. Keeping addition in between because it's over addition. Right? So it's minus 18, minus 30. So now we solve them. Opening the brackets, plus minus is minus. So two negative signs, add them and put the sign of minus. So can you see we got the same answer? So that means multiplication holds good for distributive property over addition for integers, right? So that is how we say it. A into B plus C would give me A into B plus A into C, where A, B, C all three are integers. So now let's talk about distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. So over here, as you can see, we'll be having a subtraction sign in between, right? In the previous one, we were having addition. So let's solve the left hand side first. 3 minus 5s, different signs, we need to put the sign of the greater integer, which is minus, and subtract, so it's minus 2. And minus 6 into minus 2, minus minus gets cancelled, and you are left with plus 12 as their product. But on our right hand side, if you see, minus 6 would have to be distributed with 3 also and with minus 5 also. right? So what to do now? Minus 6 into 3 would give you minus 18. Minus 6 into minus 5, so minus minus gets cancelled and you are left with plus 30. So minus 18 plus 30 again gives me plus 12. So here you can see we got the same answer again. So this shows that distributive property of multiplication over subtraction is also true. If it's true, then what's the general statement which we are going to use is A into B minus C would be equal to A into B minus A into C, where A, B, C can be any of the integers. Got it? Yeah? Trying to recall, when I say any of the integers, it can be positive, it can be negative, it can be 0. So you can try out with any 3 integers out there. So moving ahead, let's do a practice question on this. So here I have a question for you for distributive property of multiplication over subtraction, right? So this is our right hand side and this is our left hand side. So let's solve the left hand side first. Over here you can see minus 15 into, we'll solve the bracket first, right? So it's minus 7 plus 1. What did we get? Minus 7 into minus 6, which is nothing, it's 90, right? Minus minus gets cancelled, do not forget, so it becomes plus 90. Now what will happen if I solve my right hand side, right? If we solve this right hand side, that means this minus 15 would be multiplied by minus 7 also, and minus 15 would be multiplied by minus 1 also. So minus 15 into minus 7, minus minus gets cancelled, remember? So it's 105. 15 sevens are 105. Minus 15 into minus 1, again minus minus gets cancelled, we get plus of 15. So 105 minus 15 is nothing, it's 90. So again you can see you got your right hand side and your left hand side same. So this shows distributive property of multiplication over addition or over subtraction is true. It holds good for it, right? So you can try out with any integers. So moving ahead, let's summarize what all we had learned today in the session. We had talked about properties of multiplication of integers. Which all properties did we talk about? Closure property, commutative property, associative property and distributive property. Distributive property again was divided into 2 parts, over addition, over subtraction. So closure, quickly recall, closure property states any 2 integers multiplied will give you an integer only as the product, right? Commutative property says even if you interchange the position of the integers, your product would be same. And associative property says taking up any 3 integers, group them and your final product would be same. Grouping can be done anyhow. You can group the first 2 integers, you can group the last 2 integers. We have checked it, right? We did a practice question also on it. And last we saw that distributive property of multiplication, we need to distribute the first integer with the second and the third, taking into consideration whether it's over addition or over subtraction, right? So when you distribute them, your answer for the right hand side and your left hand side would come same. That is why we say that all these property holds good for multiplication of integers, right? And in my whole table, over here I am saying that A, B, C, all of them are integers. It can be any integer. It can be 0, it can be negative integer, it can be positive integer, right? So I hope all of you are now thorough with the topic properties of multiplication of integers. So before we meet in the next class and do a new topic, do not forget to practice the questions based on this. Till then, keep exploring and spark your curiosity. Bye-bye.